Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. Today I'm just going to be making a bit of an announcement, and I'm also going to be doing a reading wrap up of some books I've read for Old School April. Stay tuned. Okay everyone, before we get going I just want to make a little announcement. Something pretty bad has happened to my wife and I, and it's caused us a lot of stress and we are kind of fearful for what's going to happen. And so if I'm not online for maybe a week or two, or if I don't post videos as often as I usually do, please just be understanding of that. Please also be understanding if I don't reply to messages, or if I don't watch as many videos as I usually do, because things have got kind of rough right now. But that being said, let's get into the books. Now, in addition to Toady, which I talked about earlier on in my channel, these are the only books that I've read and that I'm reading so far this month, because as I say, it's been a bit tough, but that's okay. Let's just talk about what we've got here. Okay everyone, first up we've got Guy and Smith Locust, A Winged Nightmare of Terror. Now, this was not nearly in the same league as a lot of the other animal horror, animal attack books that I've read lately. It's about a locust swarm that invades Britain and eats everything in their path, including humans and animals. And it is kind of fun and gory. But the characters, let's just talk about them for a moment. We've got Alton, and his wife and his young son. And they move into the Welsh Hills and try to get away from it all. Now, they are not happily married. The wife despises the fact that they've moved away from the city. They've got a very bad sex life, and this is kind of a problem with this novel. It seems to be, the character seems to be overly focused on sex, and it gets kind of dumb after a while, and she is really not happy about being there. And that's also to do with all the insects and creepy crawlies, and that's made clear from the beginning. But they are not very well thought out characters, they're not very well developed, and to be honest, they're not likable at all. And this was my biggest problem with the book, is that none of the main characters are well fleshed out. You don't really invest in them, you don't really care about them, what happens to them. And in addition to this, the couple live next door to this horny girl who's just lost her husband, and the husband kind of lusts after her, and they kind of have an affair, and it's kind of dumb. It didn't work for me, and at the end I had no problem with the locusts just swarm over them, choke them to death, because that's what they do, and kind of go into their nose and their orifices, and that would have kind of been fun to watch. The positive side of this book is that the locusts are a lot of fun, and their deaths are very gory. They literally swarm all over you. They do learn to bite as well, and there is a lot of blood and gore. It's fun. But even the other characters, that you're kind of introduced to a character a couple of pages before, and then 2-3 pages later they die a gruesome death. Who cares? You don't even know who this character is. There was one scene that was awesome as well, where all these cars are stuck behind each other, and this truck comes over and there's an explosion, and there's death, and there's explosions and people burning to death. So it's kind of fun. But I think I gave it 2 stars, but then I added an extra star for the cover on Goodreads. That is Locusts. Okay everyone, the second book I've read is Koji Suzuki, Dark Water. Now this is my first excursion into Japanese novel horror. I have watched Ringu and Ring, which is a novel from this author, and I really enjoyed the movies, and I have to say I was seriously let down by this book. Now, that might be because of the mood I'm in, and that I think does play a part in terms of reading. If you are in a negative mood or a mindset where things are going wrong in your life, and you pick up a book and it just, perhaps it doesn't work. I found this to be mostly quiet horror. It's a series of short stories. It's actually, I think, 7 short stories, and they are all connected by the theme of water. So basically in every story you have either a wide open ocean, you have a dripping ceiling, and different things basically in each story. And it is mostly quiet horror, and I think that's what disappointed me. That the ending of each story, that kind of left you wanting, that there was nothing really there for you. There was no twist in the tale, no big surprise, no shock, no effect. It is very understated, very quiet horror. And it's creepy. Granted, it's very creepy, but if you're into that kind of thing, there's no problem with that. But still, there were 2 standouts for me. But overall, this book was maybe a 2-star. And it's sad because, okay, the writing's not great, but it is descriptive, it's evocative, and I think it suffered from the fact that it's a translation as well from the original Japanese text. I think there's always going to be a bit of a problem with translation. So it really didn't grip me. I didn't find it an easy read for any reason whatsoever. Okay, the 2 standouts for me, first of all, was the opening story, which was called Floating Water. And that actually became an American movie, Blackwater. I think it starred Jennifer Connelly, correct me if I'm wrong. And it's about this mother and her daughter who move into this apartment high-rise building. And the mother is also, that's another thing about this story, some of these characters are very unlikable. This mother's unlikable, the way she treats her children. In other stories there's domestic abuse. There seems to be a running theme throughout the book. But anyway, the mother and the daughter move in. And in their apartment, the mother starts to get a bit concerned about the water quality. Because it tastes funny. And there seems to be granules or something in the water. And she doesn't want to bath anymore. She gets a bit scared about the water quality. And another thing that happens is that they discover that there was another family with a small child who lived there. And the small girl, disappeared. And now they are the only ones in the apartment with a small child. Okay? And they move up to the ceiling with some fireworks, and they discover a little doll. I'm not sure what kind of doll. Oh, no, not a doll. A little zippy bag, a little girl's bag. Sitting there on the top, on the roof, next to a water tank. Okay? The story is very creepy. It's kind of bizarre, but I enjoyed it because there was tension. However, it ended kind of abruptly, and as in all the stories in this collection, I was left wanting more. I was left thinking, come on, what happens now? There has to be some kind of twist at the end, some kind of shock, and that concerned me. Okay, the second and my favorite of the whole collection, and I think this would make an awesome movie, is called Adrift, and it's about a crew of fishermen. They're out fishing, and they're quite a long way away from land and from harbour, and they find an abandoned ship. And I love this kind of thing. There's no one aboard, there's no sign of life. They call the authorities, and first of all they're told to stay there and just to wait for the authorities to come. But of course the men want to go home, so they make a deal that they'll start towing the boat back, the ship back, and the authorities will meet them halfway, the rescue team. So what actually happens is that the one fisherman who's always wanted to own like a yacht or a ship actually wants to go onto the ship on his own, and it's overnight. So he sleeps there and things happen. And he starts to learn what has been happening to the ship and to the people that were on the ship, his family. And let's just say it's very, very creepy. I actually really enjoyed this particular story. However, the ending could have been so much better. It was also a letdown. So I mean, these two stories that for me were standouts were probably 3.5 star. I enjoyed them, but every story is very weird. Every story is very, very creepy, but the endings let them down. And that's what let me down about this, basically this whole novel. That is Koji Suzuki, Dark Water. Okay everyone, and the book I'm reading at the moment, which is kind of a feel-good book for the stuff that I've been going through, is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Now I've read this about 3 or 4 times. I absolutely love it, and it is very simply about, it's a science fiction comedy, off the wall, you either love it or hate it, and at the beginning of the story the Earth gets demolished because it's standing in the way of the plans to make a bypass in the universe between other planets and solar systems and whatever. And Earth is, yeah, just nothing in the bigger scheme of things. And at the same time, we got our hero of the story, Arthur Dent, who learns the hard way that his house is also about to be demolished. And he's lying in front of these tractors because he refused to let them demolish, well, it's his house, before getting whisked away by his friend that's been on Earth for about 6 years but happens to come from the planet Betelgeuse. And they go off, excuse the birds, they go off and get whisked away and go on this interplanetary adventure, which is bizarre, which is funny, which is strange, and just once you get sucked in, it's just so enjoyable. So I'm really looking forward to reading this again. It just puts me in a good mood every time. So that's it. Just one more thing, please excuse the lighting if it's maybe not up to par. We've had a long day, so now we've got the light on, it's a little bit late. And please let me know what you think about these books, if you've read them. Please be sure to like and subscribe. And take care everyone, keep those pages turning. Cheers.